And there's a lot of stuff that I really need to know. So this should be fun. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, if you just give us a brief background about where you was born and raised and what you was into as a kid and stuff like that.
Okay, yeah. So I was born in San Diego, California. I grew up in the same one house. My brother actually still lives in that same house. And I lived pretty close to some ditches and an elementary school that had banks on them. But yeah, growing up, my life was pretty normal. Nothing dramatic. I didn't come from a, horrible background, or I was, that kind of thing. And It was just pretty normal. And, I grew up watching cartoons and subscribing to Spider-Man comics and X-Men comics. And It's funny because all the movies, the Marvel movies that have come out in the last, 15, 20 years, those are all the same stories that I grew up reading in the comic books, So that's why middle-aged men all go to those Marvel movies.
I'm a fan of those, yeah.
Yes. So, like I said, pretty normal childhood. My brother was a surfer. So all the guys in the neighborhood, there was the group of guys who were 2 years older than me. And then there was my group of friends who were all the little brothers of those guys. And they were about 2 years older. And so the older guys, they all really got into surfing. So when they got their cars at 16, they would drive 10 miles away to the beach, and they learned how to surf. And I got into boogie boarding for a while, but I just never got into that. Probably because I didn't have a car and wasn't cool enough to hang out with my older brother and his friends. But I got into video games. So this is back when you used to go to a store and put a quarter in a machine and play video games.
Okay.
I actually won the local Pac-Man championship. I won a belt buckle at the local 7-Eleven. And so we would sit there and play video games, and we would be there for hours. And so what would happen is you would have to wait your turn. So there'd be 3 or 4 people on a game, and while someone was playing, you'd be waiting your turn. So when we were waiting our turn, we would walk over to the magazine rack and start looking at the surfing magazines. And that's where I found BMX magazines. So I would sit there and just go through these BMX magazines. And the first BMX magazine I looked at was the BMX Action with Clint Miller on the cover. And I just thought it was the raddest thing ever. I didn't have a BMX bike. I don't even know if I ever saw it, but I just loved the magazines.
Okay.
And then soon after that was when the Mike Dominguez BMX Action cover came out, where he's 3 feet over the lip and he's doing a one-hander one-footer with checkered Vans. And I don't know what it was. It just captured me. And so I would always look at the magazines. I was buying magazines that didn't even own a BMX bike.
All right.
And then a kid at school, he had a torquer, a chrome torquer. So similar to the Haro frame. Before the Haro frame, it was the torquer frame.
Yeah.
And it had blue alloy rims and alloy cranks and KKT pedals, alloy everything. And so he was selling it. I had a paper route at the time, and I was wasting all my money on video games. So I'd wasted all my money on this guy's used bike instead. So I got his bike and started just trying to copy what I saw in the magazines. I had a little group of friends, and they had BMX bikes too, or they got them, and just super cheap stuff.
Yeah.
But that was the beginning of our little BMX gang.
That was the journey, yeah.
That was
the start of it.
Yep.
What was that 83 or I guess it would have been 83, 84 if that Dominguez cover. Yeah.
Yeah. It was 83.
Okay.
And so began riding with my friends in my neighborhood. One of the guys, we built a wooden quarter pipe in his backyard.
Oh, no way.
And, it was the kind of thing where it was a grass backyard. So after a while, we basically wore a dirt trail through the grass, and then you go to this quarter pipe, and, it was 6 feet tall or something. And it was awesome. And that's just what we did all the time after school.
Amazing.
And yeah,
Yeah.
made some dirt jumps in the neighborhood, and just started. That just became everything we did.
Okay.
Yeah, learned all the basics at Rowan Elementary School in San Diego.
All right.
There was a concrete bank, and that's where I basically started trying all the tricks that I saw in the magazine. So rollbacks and front wheel 180s at first on the bank, and then front wheel 360s, and airs, doing airs on a totally slanted wedge ramp, basically. But it was concrete, and that's kind of where we just learned everything.
Had you seen like BMX on the TV, or are you just learning this out of the magazines?
Magazines. It really never was on the TV back then. There was racing. You would see racing once in a while. Like I remember R.L. Osborne. He had a race with a horse.
Oh yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
On an American TV show called That's Incredible, and that was that was during the time when there was no internet. Everyone had like certain number of TV channels, and so you would watch the same show every week that you liked. And so like all of America is watching this horse race with this BMX guy. So it was pretty cool. So there were little glimpses like that once in a while. And then my friends and I, we would just try to get to BMX stuff. I actually wanted to race after a while. And there was a bike shop, Randall's BMX in San Diego. And they had a team. They had a racing team. And I wanted to race at first, but my parents couldn't afford really to get me to the races and pay the entry fees and stuff like that. And so I ended up just street riding. I ended up just doing stuff around. And so I really did want to be a racer, but I couldn't. So, we just rode on the banks.
Yeah.
And so I would say after, I don't know, let's see, I started doing that when I was 13. Got my first bike when I was 13. And so after 3 years of that, just got, some level of skill. And we started riding further out into the world, 10, 20 miles away to Balboa Park or to Mission Beach and all these places. And so we would just, ride there. And so I was at Balboa Park one day, and there was this thing called the drop. It was a flat section, just, sidewalk. And then next to the sidewalk, there was a big ditch. It probably went down maybe, I don't know, 20 feet or so. And at the top of the ditch, it just went straight down vertical for like 3 feet. It was some kind of planter rig. And then it was dirt. And at the bottom, so it was basically a drop off. You would drop off this thing. And at the bottom, it was a little mini canyon. And on the other side, there was a jump. And so guys would go there and jump.
Okay.
Pretty much a lot of the San Diego racers would have known about the Balboa drop at some point. And so we would go there and we would just watch like the pros, or not the local pros, the guys who could do cross-ups and stuff. We would watch these guys ride and be hanging out there. And one day I was hanging out there and this guy comes up and he does this weird looking foot plant off this drop, and then he goes up the other side and comes back, and his name is Jon Peterson, and he's one of the original skate park riders in San Diego, and he's been in magazines a few times. He would go on to be a photographer for BMX Plus and Haro team manager, but so I met him there, and then soon after that, hanging out the same drop, guy comes over and he starts doing front hops right in front of us, and it's Pete Augustin.
Okay.
And it was the first time I ever seen front hops. But real quick, before those two incidents, we were hanging around Balboa Park Fountain, and this group of like 5 or 6 guys come through, and they like have the best bikes, and they're, everything's like really clean. You could tell these guys are like either rich or they're pros or something. And it turned out to be Ron Wilton. And a bunch of his friends from Spring Valley, and they're just street riding. And Ron Wilton, he bunny hops up onto this fountain. It's about, I don't know, a foot and a half high. And he rides off it, and he does a 180. I think you guys call them a cab now or something.
No, it's a 180. Yeah, still 180.
Yeah, a 180 and in the air and lands on his back. It lands backwards and just rolls around. And I was like stunned. I was fascinated. I had never seen anything like that before. And I think the rest of my goal suddenly became to do that and to do that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is early, right? You're focusing in on something like that, and I mean other people are doing it, but this is like very, very early before it become even looked at. Yeah.
I had never seen that before. Like, okay. It just didn't exist in my mind. And so this was like Ron Wilton, one of the first times I'd ever seen a trick, a really good one. But yeah, so fast forward and guys start coming around Balboa Park, drop. And so that's where I started meeting guys. Then Jon Peterson, at some point he asked if I want to go to a skate park, and he's the guy with the car at this point. I'm probably, I don't know, 14 or 15. And he's, a few years older than me. He's got the car. And so he's able to put bikes in his car and we can go wherever we want. It's like a second level of freedom. The first level of freedom is you have your BMX bike, go wherever you want. And then the car, you can go to these places. And so Jon Peterson was also how I connected with Tony Murray and another guy named Chris Schaefer, another guy named Jim Hull, and we were the Strictly Trick BMX team in San Diego.
Cool.
Yeah, this is before any of those guys were sponsored. And then Tony had his ramp in his backyard in Spring Valley, and so that was kind of the next step, the next level. And so this whole time, I'm doing ground tricks and I'm riding ramps. Okay, so I like. The thing that Ron Wilton did, the 180 off the curb, that's still not something that I would ever see people really do much of that kind of thing for a long time. I mean, I learned how to do it, but it wasn't like street riding in any form was really popular yet. So, Pete Augustin, myself, all these guys, we were just doing ground tricks and we were riding ramps and going off jumps. And then we all, in San Diego, man. So just so you know, I'm the worst with dates. I'm not a historian. I'm just the worst. And so maybe in 86 or something, probably not, but I'll just say that there was a AFA freestyle contest in San Diego in the Jack Murphy Stadium parking lot. Might have been 86. Probably wasn't. Yeah. Someone will correct me. But that was where a lot of the San Diego guys kind of were seen for the first time by a lot of, I guess, the freestyle BMX industry. Even though there really wasn't an industry at that point, there were just some team managers who brought their ramps down, and it was very small. But Dave Norrie was there. Pete Augustin, just a lot of San Diego guys. And so that is where I met the Skyway team guys. So Maurice Meyer and Hugo and Robert Peterson, all these different guys. So, I was just down there, we were riding, we hung out. And so I got to know them guys a little bit. Then sometime after that, not too long after that, there was a contest in Pleasanton, California. So this is now Northern California. NorCal, this is like Skyway territory where all these guys live. And I did pretty good at that contest. I was able to, I was used to the ramp. I did some airs. I did some ground tricks. I did a bunny hop foot plant on the judges' table, which I don't know. I think some people got mad, but yeah, I think that was. And so Jon Peterson, he was kind of known as the weird foot plant guy in skate parks. I mean, they weren't all weird. They were, he did a lot of amazing foot plants, but he was very creative, and he'd always like try stuff. And he had what he called the disco dance foot plant, where he would go up and like swing his bike around and stuff, and just funny stuff like that. And so I basically started copying him, but I started trying to do it in bunny hops. I'm pretty sure I had probably seen someone else do it, maybe Jon, out of a bunny hop, but started doing that. So yeah, that's how I ended up on the judges table.
Okay, so like hop into the foot plant.
Yeah, just bunny hop up, and then you do a foot plant.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. What is that called? A bunny hop foot plant?
No, just a foot plant. Yeah, that's just foot plant now. Yeah.
Is the word bunny hop gone? Did that die a long time ago?
No, it's still around.
Oh,
yeah.
Good.
Yeah, it's still going.
Good. So,
but one second.
Yeah.
You say you're doing big airs now. I assume it's 86.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd call them big, but yeah.
Well, I've seen some photos of you like blasting big airs that I'd not seen before. Like,
thank you.
like big ones, and I was like, I don't really ever remember seeing those in the mags. Like you doing like a couple of them were huge. I'll find them. They'll be in the interview hopefully.
Thank you.
There was one pic I saw of you, and it's like really. I hope I'm right. It was a one-handed can.
Yeah, it was.
And it was black and white.
Yes. Yeah, I know
and it was the first time I'd ever seen that trick. Right. This was quite early, and I just remember seeing it and being like, "Whoa, look at this!" I was like blown away by like, I've never seen this. Look at how much they're so stylish. Like I was very young then, and I just that I still remember. I've not seen that picture since. But it's still in my mind that one pic because it was the first time I'd seen it. Yeah, and I'm guessing you was early doing one-handed can must have been pretty early because I've not seen it before and I was fully into it at that point. So
yeah, so I had a coaster brake, and because of that, I never actually attempted. I guess because of my coaster brake, I couldn't ride skate parks as good as all my friends did. All these guys, like you kind of need a coaster, right? Or a free wheel. I don't even know what to call them. I never used them to ride in a skate park. And so, I just never let go of my coaster brake, but for riding quarter pipes, it was great, and so, yeah, there's actually, man, I got a picture of a one-handed can on the cover of a magazine during a summer tour. I don't know if it's Super BMX or one of those magazines, but yeah. So I used to do that, and I at one point, and I'm going all over the timeline now, but at one point,
that's all right.
I was a local at Ron Wilkerson's Enchanted Ramp for quite a while, and so that was definitely a season of me, being really used to ramps and getting some good air. And so yeah, I think for a while I just kind of went along with whatever the contests were doing, and I mean it was fun, but that's kind of what I was doing. So yeah, definitely a lot of ramp riding.
And where did you learn to like do them higher airs? Like because like you kind of edge up, didn't you, when you're learning to do airs, and then suddenly you can kind of like it gets dangerous and you can go high. Like where did you learn to sort of go to that next step?
Probably Tony Murray. So I was at Tony Murray's a lot, and I mean that guy's just fearless, and he would just go higher than everyone, and his ramp was the steepest, just most horrible transition. Like it was so steep, and people would go there and ride it, and they'd be like these really good ramp riders, and they'd try to ride it, and they would just bottom out every time because it was just crazy. And I got used to riding that, and so. And for whatever, and it's like you ride a ramp that horrible for so long, and then you get on one that's like way better and easier. And I don't know, it's just easier. And then another ramp I rode a lot was Tony Adams ramp in Santee. And that's like, Dave Voelker. I rode with Dave Voelker a lot, that we crossed paths quite a bit back then. I had a friend, long-haired Jimmy, who was in the beginning of Agroman, the guy holding up the necklace, the caveman guy.
Yeah.
He and he's been in a couple of BMX pictures here and there over the years, magazines. But we would hang out in Santee and El Cajon and just kind of street ride all over the place. And that was Dave Voelker's territory, so we would always be around with him, rode with him a lot. So yeah, I got some ramp riding in with him, and so I actually rode quite a bit of ramps for a number of years, just as a before and as a sponsored Skyway rider.
Yeah,
show rider.
Before street riding took over.
Yeah.
So how did you get on Skyway? Through Jon Peterson?
No. So going back to the Pleasanton contest, so I'm going there, and I did pretty well. I got some good airs, and the main thing is I did good enough to get noticed by the Skyway guys and the Skyway team, and the manager was there, and so they just noticed me, didn't say anything to me. But not too long after that, Skyway was about to leave on a summer tour to Europe.
Okay.
And so I'm not sponsored at this point. I have I'm on Strictly Trick. That's my sponsor. And
all right.
Randall's BMX shop, they're giving me some parts, and so they're a sponsor, but and then Tony Murray's handed me down his old parts and that kind of thing, but no sponsor. And I get a call from Maurice Meyer, I believe, and he says, "Hey, Hugo just broke his foot. We're looking for a ramp rider. Can you come up here and audition?" And so I was like, "Yes." And so I go up to Skyway, and it's like an 8 or 9 hour drive or something. But I go up there, and they pull their tour ramp out on the parking lot, and I had that was the first time I ever drank a Jolt Cola.
Okay, yeah, I remember it. Yeah.
Do you remember Jolt Cola?
Yeah.
So it's like it was the first energy drink, way before energy drinks, and I got super jittery and stuff, and I totally wiped out. But I did good enough for them to say, yeah, we can take him on this team, and so just did that, and so my first time as a sponsored rider doing a show was that tour in, I believe that was in, it was the year I graduated.
I know the year. But
what is it? Tell me.
86.
That's it. 86. You're right. Yes.
Because you did, I think anyway, you did the Slough Race Worlds demo in the UK.
Oh, funny. Yeah.
Yeah? Do you remember?
I don't remember much, but I do remember the name Slough. I remember.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me. So this is like a demo that nobody remembers, right? But there's
right.
quite.
I barely remember it.
But there's a fair few pictures from this demo. So it was
funny.
Craig, Pepi, Damon Nichols, Jason Lunn, Nick Phillip was there, and you've probably seen them. The UK mag Action Bike did some photos of you and Nick riding street basically around that. And Craig has that famous picture of you guys standing up against the wall, and he's gapping over you. You seen that?
Yeah. No, I remember that. I'm not sure if that's the first time I was in.
That's not the first time, no.
I don't think so, because I saw.
Oh, wow, okay. Well, then I could be wrong with 86 then.
In that. No, you're probably right. I'm trying to remember. See, okay, so the reason I don't know for sure is because in that photo of us against the wall, I'm wearing a cutoff Skyway T-shirt, and during that time was kind of the beginning of. It was kind of like the transition from being a nice, clean, from riders in general to being nice, clean riders with uniforms.
Okay.
To beginning to kind of have their own style, or to get sponsored by clothing manufacturers like Jimmy's or Vision Streetwear or these kinds of things. So it was funny because my little cutoff shirt, which nobody really cared about or think about, in the magazine, in the UK magazine, they made such a big deal about it. Oh, look, the sponsored rider's wearing a cutoff shirt. He's crazy, evil. It was really funny.
I wonder if you came maybe in 85 then, and you didn't come to the UK. I don't remember. Or maybe you did. Oh no, you did. Okay, so I'm having a recollection here. So you did actually come, and you went to Mons in 85, I think. Scotty Freeman.
Yes, that sounds very familiar.
I think Hugo came on that.
Because I rode with Neil Ruffell and Craig Campbell, and I'm pretty sure that was on my first trip there.
All right.
Maybe, but like I said, I don't know. The magazines will tell us the truth.
Yeah, I'll try and unfold it. Yeah, but
right.
but so the first time you met Nick, I would assume, was at that Slough demo, 86.
So to be honest, I don't remember. I remember being inside of a kind of auditorium kind of thing, sports arena, and riding around inside this room. And so Dennis McCoy's there as well. I think it was
Whole Shot.
Okay, that's what it was. Whole Shot. And
I was there.
You were there.
Yeah, I was there. Yeah.
Sweet. So yeah, we're in, I guess, the staging area or something. And I just remember Dennis McCoy, myself, following Nick around. Like, here's this crazy dude we just met, and he's got this crazy trick where he bunny hops up on the wall and leaves some marks and then comes back. And that was the first time Dennis or I had ever seen wall rides. And it was really cool. And so we basically just started trying to do it. And by the end of our time there, we could do it, just bunny hop up, mark, hit the wall and come down. And it was great. So yeah, a lot of good memories of Nick and his anarchic adjustment brand and style. There's just it was a lot of fun. All the guys over there. I just remember it being so fun to go and hang out with that crew because it was just silly. But
yeah,
went street riding with those guys, and so I get back home from that contest, and one of the guys from Freestylin' magazine, I believe it was Freestylin' at that point. It was it would have been, I don't know. Freestylin' was only there for like 3 years or something, wasn't it? Like, how long did it actually last? I remember hearing
84 to I think 89. I think
that's crazy when you think about it. Like,
I think at first they wasn't every month at first.
Yeah,
they were like bi-monthly or quarterly or something. Yeah.
I mean, you think about how short a period of time that was, and yet it made such a big impact on our lives. Just that.
But how long a period of time did it seem when you were that age?
Yeah,
seemed
like that was my whole life. That was it.
Yeah. Well, so were you was already riding street quite a lot by the time you got to the UK for that event, I assume?
Yeah, I was. Definitely. I was doing a lot of bunny hop foot plants and all the 180. I call them forward 180s and backwards 180s or half cabs or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, and again, I had coaster brake, so it was really easy for me to be rolling backwards and then come out of that in a bunny up. Can I do this?
That's the half cab. Yeah.
That's a half cab. Yeah. So I was actually doing that a long time ago. People always ask me if I got that from skateboarding. No, I never really liked skateboarding. I mean, it was around. I could appreciate a skater who was really good. We used to ride our bikes at bike night at Del Mar Skate Park. But on bike night, there'd be skaters there too. So we would be around guys like Tony Hawk and Neil Blender and Lance Mountain, all these guys who were just the San Diego skater guys. And it was funny. One day we were there in the day, and there's this commotion going on, and we walk over there, and it's a skate contest, and it was like this epic skateboard contest, a battle between Tony Hawk and Christian Hosoi.
Oh, okay.
And later I would see in magazines like that was like the big super thing, but I wasn't a skater. So I think I was just rolling back a lot, and then figured I should try to get out of this by doing a bunny hop 180. And, so that's kind of how it happened. At different points in my life, like there was one point when I got a little bored of BMX, and I tried skating for a while with a friend of mine, but it didn't last very long. I always went back to the BMX.
Yeah. That's what I was going to ask you. Did you get that from skateboarding, the half cab? Because it seems so natural to look at, all right, skateboarders can go backwards because you couldn't really, on a freewheel, so to speak, do it as well.
I think that's what it is. I mean, I was rolling back off of everything and just gave it a tug.
Yeah. Was that? I guess you just did that on the flat first, right?
I think so. Yeah, I don't remember. I'm sure I did. But I would definitely mostly do it off little curbs or down steps or different things like that. But I'm sure I did it flat first.
Yeah, there's that one jumping forward a bit, that 2-hit meet the street contest, where you're doing it like down off the blocks and stuff. Really good, real nice. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
I think that was the first time I'd taken it in. Like, whoa, like there's something else going on here. Yeah, but yeah. So, and then I interviewed Nick about just in general, like while I'm interviewing you, and he said that you took the wall ride back to the US, and I think that's what you were going to tell me about Freestyling, the magazine, where they shot the photo of the wall ride, and you credited him, which he was really happy about. Yeah.
Oh, good. Yeah. No. So I get home from that contest, and somebody from the magazine calls me and says, "Hey, I heard you can do wall rides," and I was like, "Yep." After like 2 days of doing it, because you always want to say yes to the magazine, and then they said, "Can you come up here? We want to take pictures of you." The magazine was about 2 hours away from my house. And I was like, "Yep." And so I go up there, and they take me to this black bank to wall. I forget the name of it. I think the name is in the magazine. There's a picture of me wearing Jimmy Z pants and a Skyway jersey, and I'm on a wall, and it's at night, and it's flashes and stuff. I'm sure we could find that. But so they take me to this wall, and I look at this wall, and I'm thinking, that's not what I meant by a wall ride. I meant just bunny hopping up and hitting my tires on the wall. Like, I had never seen anyone do anything like that before. Never even heard of it. And so I was like, okay. So I put on my knee pads. So it's kind of a funny picture. I'm wearing knee pads over my pants.
Okay.
But anyway, I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm going to die. But I just tried it, and probably after a couple times I got used to it, and it worked. But yeah, and then they took that picture, and it was a full color magazine picture, and it was crazy. But yeah, that picture is actually the first time I ever did a bank to wall.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know. I can't remember that. I don't think I've got that freestyling. That must be like one of. There's a few I'm missing, and I don't think I'll have that one. So I can't remember that picture. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was a freestyle. It might have been a BMX action, but I don't know. Yeah. I just know it's a cool picture.
Yeah, no, I'll source it. I know people who've got all of them, so I'll be able to find it.
Cool.
And also, I wanted to ask you is the word aggro. Was that from knowing the UK guys?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I know that. I don't know. I know that myself and Pete Augustin used to say the word aggro, and so I'm totally not sure where it came from.
Because it was used in one of the UK mags a lot in like '86.
Yes, no, I definitely remember them using that or seeing that over there too. And I think I was happy because I was like, oh, they know that word. But so I don't know where it came from. It could have.
Okay, I just assume that because it's like an English slang, which I associate like for aggression or aggressive. So yeah, people used it over here a lot back then.
It could have, but because I now that I think back, this is so funny. Now that I think back, I remember Maurice Meyer using that word and other people using that word. So I don't know. I don't know where it came from.
But you used it so often. I was like, man, he must know where this has come from. But yeah, maybe not. But yeah, and then like, so what? As things have like rolled on, you got really like everyone like. Or not everyone, but a lot of people at that point kind of got like street obsessive, right? And it became this like thing that just took over, like this new thing that everyone was like really into. or a certain amount of people, like a real sort of concentrated core of people, and that's what got pushed, right?
Yes, and
but
I don't
so
know
many
why.
things came from that, like.
And again, man, I should have had you taking notes back then, because you're the guy with all the detail. But so the way I kind of remember it is the sponsorships are kind of ending. Everyone's already doing street riding in the terms of, riding down the street really fast, bunny hopping, kicking out on stuff, and doing things like that, doing ground tricks, but like going fast while doing it, and different things like that. But I think when the sponsorships started dying out, like 91, 92, is when there really wasn't a need to go to contests anymore. And the whole like seriousness and Little League baseball team uniform style of BMX kind of just went away, and nobody cared anymore about kind of like the opinion of the people who make the bikes and team managers. And because back then it was, you have a team manager and he's kind of calling all the shots, and he's never ridden a bike, and he really doesn't know the culture, doesn't really care. And so now all of a sudden you got all these guys who are now, in their 20s, old enough to make a bike or make the stickers or make the magazines or whatever. And it just, the whole attitude just started changing. And I think street riding was just what more people wanted to see and wanted to do. And it's really interesting because I've been, I'm always told I'm the guy who invented street, or one of the guys who invented street. I don't consider myself that, because there were always guys in the neighborhood who were doing stuff that I saw before me. But for whatever reason, the magazines really started using me and a few other guys as like the street guys, and probably because I had my coaster brake and I could do half caps or something. But yeah, and then I just kind of got really creative with the foot plants and all this stuff, and then my drive went from trying to do stuff on ramps, trying to do ground tricks or invent new ground tricks, to trying to make stuff up on the street and street tricks. And that kind of became it. And then another thing, I think, another reason it got popular is when I started making my videos, I started pointing my camera at street tricks, street stuff. Right. That's, and so, now you got aggro riding and kung fu fighting and aggro man. So yeah, you're right. I like the word aggro. And they all got street tricks in them, and these are videos. These are like some of the only things that kids have seen as far as BMX on any kind of video. Because back then it wasn't on TV. There was no internet. You would see BMX in the magazines, and once in a while you'd get it like a sequence shot. So you could see, different shots of what a trick being done. But for the most part, you never saw video. So all of a sudden, my video, the Dorkin and York videos, before that, Rad TV.
Yeah. What about, so you could get videos, but they were like really like childish looking videos, like 101 tricks. And
yeah.
I was going to ask you, like, was your videos like a reaction to what those videos were in the past? Or was that just purely you guys just doing your thing? No, okay.
My video was me trying to make a video, not knowing what I was doing. But yeah, so it's actually kind of an interesting story. So 101 tricks, those professionally done videos, a magazine, or BMX Plus magazine in that case. Sorry about that. BMX Plus magazine. They hire a video production company and they come make a video, and so it's just a very standard, well lit, well produced video, as if someone was to come and make a corporate video of, this is how our business runs, except it's BMX. So it's very much that way. So I had a good friend named Dave Schlossbach, and he was a video producer for H Street Skateboards. So this is where the skateboard influence comes in. So I had just made Aggro Man, and he was making, no, it might have been before that, but sometime around that time, I had made some kind of cheesy video, and he had just made one of the H Street videos. And what he would do is just get a high camera that was very cheap compared to all these big production cameras that these other guys were using. And he duct taped a fisheye wide angle lens on the front of it. And he would just follow the guys on their skateboards. He was skating too. And he just got the most amazing footage. And it was super low quality and not approached in any way professionally. There was no script. There was no anything. It was just, he just followed these guys around their skateboards a lot and then put a video together. He had some editing experience. And this was during the time when nobody edited, because in order to get on an editing machine, you would have to pay like $75 an hour. And so I actually got a job at an editing house, and instead of getting paid, they would let me use the editing machines for a while.
Oh, okay.
And that's actually how I made Right On and Matt Hoffman Head First, I believe. But yeah, so he was actually a big influence just to show me that you don't need to spend a lot of money and hire a crew to make a video. You just go out and shoot it, and then at some point you got a lot of good footage and put it together. Because when it comes down to it, the writers don't care about good lighting and good quality and good composition. They just want to see the tricks.
Yeah.
And, at some point, I hope I got good at all those other things, lighting and composition and stuff. But at the beginning, writers just want to see tricks. And it's the same today on YouTube. People will watch the worst quality videos of either writing or like someone's cat, and it has nothing to do with the quality of the video. They just want to see the stuff because it's entertaining or they like it, Yeah. So, yeah.
Raw. Yeah.
Raw.
And then videos came, as you were saying, like, just as, for instance, for me, I always think of like the adults left BMX.
Yeah.
Like, what you were saying, like all the TMs and the stuff like that and the AFA or whatever that was. Not that they're necessarily bad people or anything, but the grown-ups kind of lost interest in it because it was dwindling. And then it was left to like people like yourself and like-minded individuals. And that's when it really, to me, it really had to regrow itself, right? And that totally like was at the same time as like street riding and a whole new look, and it got exciting again, right? But it was still declining. Could you see the decline? You must have been able to, because the Skyway.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I was sponsored by Skyway. We were going on European tours and American tours, and we were just riding a lot. I was getting, I think, $800 a month, which is nothing now, but back then it was a lot because I was living at home. Yeah, I was living at home and no bills, and so $800 a month plus if I would get a photograph in a magazine, I would get a bonus. So like you get a full page color, you're going to get a certain amount of money, $200, and if you get a quarter of a page black and white, you get a certain amount of money, $50, whatever it was, the breakdown. And shoe sponsors and clothing sponsors and all, whatever you want kind of thing. And it went pretty quickly from that to, sorry, Eddie, we can't pay you anymore. And we're folding the whole team. And then also it went from, and there was probably a time when there were 6 or 7 BMX magazines coming out every month. And then it went down to 3, and then it went down to 1, and then there was none. Yeah. And that all has to do with advertisers being able to pay money to the magazines, and the magazines, being used to make money. And all of a sudden the economy just fell apart and no one was buying anything that had to do with entertainment anymore. It's kind of like during COVID, people were kind of, well, actually it was different in COVID because everyone had so much money they were just spending all kinds of stuff. But there was definitely that first like week during COVID when everyone was like, oh no, end of the world, we're all going to die. I better not spend anything, you know? But yeah, so it was just a time when your parents wouldn't buy you a BMX bike because they just didn't have the money. So it all just kind of fell apart.
Yeah, many things happen at the same time, and then the end result is like. So yeah, so when did Skyway end?
Man, let's see. I don't know because I'm horrible with dates.
Okay, but it's like 89 or 88, I guess, right?
Sure, something like that. Yeah, I don't know, man. I would have to look back.
No
you know
worries.
who would know? You know who would know? Maurice Meyer would know. Maybe I'll ask.
Yeah, I've had him on actually. He came to the shop. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I just wondered if you had it. Because he worked there, didn't he? After that.
Yeah.
I remember. Yeah.
You know who else was a pretty big influence in street riding back then was Dave Vanderspek.
Yeah, that's right.
He was in the first freestyle magazine, and he definitely was around skateboarding a lot, and he did skateboard himself, and he was around that whole San Francisco, Tommy Guerrero, Natas, and all those skater guys, and he was around all those guys, and so he definitely was doing BMX, was doing skateboarding influenced BMX stuff, and so he was another guy around that same time as myself and Pete Augustin that were getting in magazines for being the street guys, I guess.
Yeah, because they even had like a thing in one of their demos where he skated along he rode along doing a surfer and then jumped onto the skateboard. Right?
You know what? You just brought back a really good memory. So I went up to San Francisco just to ride around with Maurice, and I probably saw Dave on that trip somewhere. But yeah, definitely saw Dave on that trip. And that trip, man, I'm pretty sure I have a picture of this somewhere, but I can't guarantee it. But on that trip, Dave Vanderspek set up the first BMX street contest. This was before Meet the Street, but it was very small. It was very local. He was basically doing what he'd seen all the skaters do all the time. That is, bring out this launch ramp in the middle of a parking lot and just have a big party. And he did that for a BMX contest, and I was in it. And Maurice Meyer was in it. And I just remember it just being a lot of fun. And it might have been the first time I was launching off a wooden wedge ramp with my bike. And it was just fun. That's a good memory. It was, very, very quick and didn't get any magazines or anything, but yeah, Dave Vanderspek, he was definitely a innovator when it came to street riding.
Everyone who knows always brings him up. Yeah. Like Vanderspek was like the godfather of street. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, yeah. It's good. It's nice that you brought him up. And it like, so what about, Aggro Man? Like, what was the like? I watched that the other day, and there was some really funny skits in there.
What's that?
You still got it, yeah? No way.
Still got it. That's the same one. Yeah. Still wear it every day. No, I'm just kidding.
You also, was that the video that you played the music for?
That was aggro riding and kung fu fighting, but it might have been an Aggro Man too.
I think there's some in Aggro Man as well.
Probably.
I watched them by
the music's a funny story. So I had some friends, and they actually were musicians. They played, I don't know if you'd call them. They were like playing rock music in their room, in my neighborhood, and so. So one had a guitar, one had drums, and they would just play. And I would just go out there and hang out. And, just because we were friends, you just hang out with your friends. And then at some point, I got my dad's video camera, and we just started goofing around. And that's when I started singing for those videos.
Okay.
Me singing in those videos was pretty much the only times I ever sang like that in the bands, because it was just goofing around. But it was so funny because like people later would ask me, what's the name of your band? And like all of a sudden we're like, we quit, we're retired. Yeah, those were fun times.
Well,
sure.
I actually, when I watched, because I watched it like 4 days ago or something, and it made me think somebody should do this now. Like, it's just like make their own soundtrack to their own riding. I was really into it. I was like, this is great. Like, and then there was also like a skit where I think it's Steve Swope dressed up as the dad.
Yes.
I was laughing at that.
Well, no, that was part of the plot of the movie where Aggro Man, he's having problems with his dad. His dad doesn't get it. He just wants to get aggro, and his dad wants him to go clean up.
Yeah,
very important plot part. No, Steve Swope's the best. That was some of the funniest stuff.
But that was kind of like well, for me, like my parents, they were on my, like they didn't see what the attraction was with BMX, and I think a lot of guys did the same.
Funny.
Had the same experience,
You could relate to that part.
Yeah. And I could relate to it the other day when I saw it as well. So I did enjoy that. Yeah, and
that's cool.
Can you remember how long you filmed for that video? Was it just like a summer or something?
Okay, so the Aggro Man part itself, I think so. Matt Hoffman, he's always lived in Oklahoma. I live in California. And when we were on the Skyway team together, we started just hanging out. I would go to his house for like a week or two and just ride his ramp. And, he was just goofy. I was goofy. We would goof around a lot. And so I came up with this idea to make a BMX superhero, and it was Aggro Man. And it was based on all my years of reading comic books. I used to get comics in the mail. So like I was way into comic books, and when you're reading comic books, you just are always drawing stuff, kind of like Napoleon Dynamite, just doing these little sketches. And I came up with the Aggro Man costume, superhero guy, and then I wrote a script, and so that whole thing, the Aggro Man is actually a written script.
Oh, right. Oh, amazing.
So the plot line of Steve Swope, that's actually in the screenplay. But yeah, so it's
right.
Pretty basic thing. I had taken some kind of video production class in high school and just let her rip. And so yeah, we went there and we filmed Aggro Man probably in, I would say, 3 days, like the actual story part.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it was just footage, probably the story part, and then all the stuff at Matt's house on his ramp. But then the footage, all the other footage from all their places, I would say probably about a year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. For those videos, there was like a year in between them, at least the early ones, like aggro riding and kung fu fighting. And then another year it was like Aggro Man, I think. And then Head First after that, and then Ride On. And so all these videos were kind of like, there's about a year or so.
Yeah. Between each one.
Yep. I think, I don't know. I'm the worst.
I'm gonna have a look. Yeah,
it'll probably be like 5 years apart. Be like, he's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
No. They were roughly. I think you're right, roughly. But Head First seemed like it came out a little bit after. But they were like when they, for the few people that was kind of, because it was so dwindling then.
Yeah,
they were such a good thing to have. Like, it was. Did you draw the artwork for Aggro Man?
No, my friend Martin Ontiveros. I think he's actually an artist now. I think you can find him on Instagram. Cool, yeah. He goes by the name Meatball. But yeah, he was amazing, amazing artist. Yeah, he was just a friend from school, and everyone involved was a friend of one kind of another.
Yeah. But yeah, they definitely spoke to like the scene like so strongly.
Oh man, you should have seen. So when I was done making Ride On, I remember this was the first time I did any kind of premiere, because when the ones before, it's just like video's done, here you go. I didn't even think about a premiere. But for this one, I just thought, I want to show this and everybody watch it at the same time. Everyone who's in it, all the San Diego guys. And we went to a pizza restaurant. I forget the name of it, but a pizza restaurant where they got a TV on the screen. And I had asked the owner if we could play the video, and they said, yeah. So I told everyone we're going to meet at this pizza place on this day. And I remember sitting there watching it in this crowded pizza place with all these just friends and the San Diego BMX scene. And again, this was a time when BMX was dead. The magazines were gone. The sponsors were gone. And I just remember this little group of BMX guys watching it. And, when you finish making a video, you're just kind of done with it. It's like, and just like, whatever. It's not special at all when you've been editing it forever. And I remember playing it and everyone in that place just being just so amazed and happy. And it almost like it gave everyone strength again. And it was
exactly it.
Yeah, it was such a cool feeling. And it was like, everyone was like, all right, let's go ride. It was such a cool time.
100% the same thing. It's like, it made you kind of go, yes.
Yeah.
Like, we're back. If somebody has addressed this stuff and we don't need to be depressed about anything. Let's go. Yeah. That was amazing. Right.
Yeah.
We've got a Patreon page. So if you could show us any support, we'd be most grateful. The link's below. A lot of work goes into these shows, so anything you could do would be much appreciated. Thank you. So one of the things I wanted to speak to you about was Head First.
Yeah, Head First. So I had been working as a video editor out of high school, and then I took maybe a year. I don't remember the exact time. It was a year or a year and a half of video production classes at my local college. And out of all that, actually really out of the high school class, I learned how to edit. And so I got a job working as an editor at just a little video shop kind of place. So this is before you could edit your own videos on your laptops, and video editing software just didn't exist. That's how old I am. See my shirt, old school reunion. I was old school in 2010. That's how old school I am. So back then, there was no video editing programs on your iPhone, on your computer. And so I had this job editing people's home movies and their Super 8 films. So basically, wealthy people would come in and they would bring a big shoebox full of their old film reels, and I would basically edit together a lifetime of their Christmas movies and home movies and stuff. And so I was doing that for a while, and I don't know, I was probably getting paid whatever the going rate was then, I don't know, $12 an hour or whatever. And I was also at the time riding BMX and shooting videos and all that stuff. And so Matt, he had wanted to make a video basically of his riding, just kind of a video he could sell when he does shows and that kind of thing. We had already made Aggro Man. I think we had already made Ride Like a Man. And so he was just wanting a video of himself. And so we made a deal. I would make the video and he would ride in it, and I would sell it, and we would split the profits 50-50, because obviously it's a video of Matt Hoffman, it's going to sell. So
yeah,
that's kind of that's how that started. And then I went to my boss at the video editing place where I'm making home movies. And I said, hey, if I was to not get a paycheck from you and just work hour for hour, so I work an hour and you give me an hour where I can edit video, can we do that? And he said, sure. And so that's how those earlier videos, that one and Ride On, that's how those ones got made. Because I could definitely have never afforded it. And I'm sure it was, it cost something like $35 to $50 an hour to rent one of these editing bays. And so there's no way I could afford it. Matt probably couldn't have either back then. And so that's really how those videos got made. So just, I would go out to Matt's house. He lived in Oklahoma. I lived in California. So I would go out on these 2-week trips and just live at his house and shoot all day. Back then, him and Dennis McCoy would come down a lot, Steve Swope. And these guys would basically ride all night in this warehouse and then sleep during the day. So all these sessions were always at night. At the time, I got really into filmmaking and just kind of like, that was my interest. I was looking at all these movies and subscribing to movie making magazines. Again, this is before the internet. Books came in the mail to your house. And so I had all these cinematography books and lighting books, and I would go to these lighting workshops. I've always lived within a couple hours of Hollywood, and Hollywood's a great place if you're a filmmaker because there's always these little workshops going on. So like maybe a camera store, they're trying to get people in. So they have a workshop where such and such a filmmaker who made this really popular movie, he's going to come in and give a talk and talk about how he makes movies. And this is just like a normal thing that happens at different places in Hollywood, kind of like a trade show, but this kind of thing happens a lot. There was actually a film school there, and they would have these guest speakers come in. So like, a movie comes out, Lord of the Rings, and it's, the director of Lord of the Rings is here and he's going to talk about his movie. And that was usually for the film students, but they would also open it up to the public and you could buy tickets. And it was kind of the film school's way of getting new students. But so like that kind of stuff is happening all the time. So I got really into that aspect of filmmaking and got really into lighting. And so in the scenes from Head First, there's a lot of scenes where it's like the lighting is just different. It's at night and the ramp is lit up, just pretty different than normal. Because I was basically using movie set lighting to where there's like the traditional backlight and two lights on the side and the whole thing, and got really into that. And I actually bought this pretty big and heavy Mole Richardson light kit. Mole Richardson is the lights they used to use for movies all the time. And so I bought that, lugged it to Oklahoma, had to pay extra for carry-on for this big case, and just set up my lights every night in different ways and just shot Matt. And that lighting, it was so bright in there, it allowed me to ramp up the shutter speed. And so the slow motion was just looking a lot better. And the whole thing just looked a lot more dramatic. There's a lot of dramatic lighting in there. Yeah. And it's basically because of that lighting. Different photographers from BMX magazines over the years have just commented on how like good the lighting is in that, in the Matt Hoffman Head First in different scenes. And, so that was definitely, I don't know, for me, just kind of a next step, next level type of thing, and just attempting to make these bike videos better. So yeah, Matt Hoffman Head First was a lot of fun. And, most of all, the world got to see Matt just in his raw form. Back then, you're just looking at magazines every month and you're seeing like sequences, but then you see like Matt doing all these combination tricks for the first time. And that was pretty remarkable, just seeing, the no footer to can to no hit to whatever, and it was pretty stunning. And it was like the first time people had seen it if they'd never been to like a contest to watch him ride. So yeah, Matt Hoffman Head First. That was a great one.
And for me, you could also see the power in the move and the way he moved. I remember the lighting now, but I didn't really pay much attention to it when it was playing.
Yeah.
And you could see some of the lights on the decks, and some of the clips had a shadow on them too. What about the cover? The cover was good. Who was that? The same artist as Aggro Man?
Yeah. So the cover, so the drawing on the back, those were done by a guy named Meatball. He's my friend. His real name's Marty Ontiveros. He did the Aggro Man cover as well. And yeah, he was just an amazing artist, just a friend of mine from high school. And he was just really good. And today, I believe you can find him on Instagram, just Marty Ontiveros, and he's still doing artwork and he does all kinds of crazy stuff. And he was just a great part of that whole cover, and just a great artist. Yeah, I remember selling PAL versions of that VHS tape to, man, what was the big distributor?
I would have thought it was Backyard, Stuart Dawkins.
Yes, with Stuart. Yeah, I love that guy. He's a great guy, and man, he's done so much for you guys over in the UK. You know, he's like the linchpin over there. So yeah,
yeah, I still speak to him. He still does distro. They still do that stuff over here.
Yeah, no, he's a lot of good memories with him. He's just a great guy. Good to see he's still going at it. I saw him. Real quick, I saw him in that one video. It's like the guy over there doing the insane wall ride, and he's part of like the construction crew that's setting up the ramps.
Oh, yeah, the Red Bull thing, yeah.
Yes, so that was really good.
Yeah, cool, man. Yeah,
Stuart was my favorite part of that video.
Excellent.
Just kidding. The wall ride is crazy too.
I also wanted to ask you about some of the sponsors you had later on. You rode for Airwalk.
Yeah, so I was sponsored by Airwalk for a while. I was sponsored by Awesome Shoes, but for Airwalk, I believe that was when Sin was the team manager. Do you remember Sin? A guy named Sin. I think he was probably bigger in the skateboarding world. But yeah, so rode for Airwalk. You know, great stuff from them.
Did they used to pay you to ride for Airwalk, or was that just a product?
That was just product. Okay. The people I got paid for was basically by Skyway. They were the ones who paid me, and then that was it as far as sponsors. I believe I might be remembering incorrectly because I'm so old school that I'm old, but I don't know. But I got a lot of flow and just product from a bunch of different companies. Airwalk was one of them. Got stuff from Vision Streetwear, and then Awesome Shoes. That was a big thing in America for a little while. Awesome Shoes.
I remember Awesome Shoes, yeah. Did that have some connection to Vans?
No, they looked like Vans. I believe they were basically a Vans ripoff, but, you know, they were awesome.
I thought it was one of the Van Doren brothers, but maybe I'm wrong there.
Yeah, I don't know. It could have been. I'll tell you what, at the time, I really wasn't paying attention. I was just getting free stuff and just riding my bike. So, yeah, you'll have to talk to someone like Dennis McCoy to get like the historian version of it all. Because that dude remembers everything. So, but not me.
And what about Life's a Beach? Because that looked like a really good thing at the time.
They were great. Pete Augustin, he was on Life's a Beach. I believe he was the first bike rider. And, you know, I see him riding around at Balboa Park wearing these skull pants, which were just awesome. And so, you know, I ended up meeting the guys there and got sponsored, and yeah, they would give us all kinds of stuff. The artist there, they had a few different artists there, but this one artist, his name was Doze, D-O-Z-E, and he was like a Brooklyn graffiti style artist, and he's actually the one that did the cover for Aggro Riding and Kung Fu Fighting, where the Chinese guys doing the karate chop, you know, and there's ninjas on there. So that was Doze. He was just a great artist. I'll have to look him up as well. He was a great guy. But yeah, the whole Life's a Beach scene was just fun and cool, and they would just, you know, all these different places were just kind of like mini families, mini gangs where all the riders would just be together, and it was just fun. So yeah, Life's a Beach definitely played a big part in teaching me what fashion was all about. I still haven't learned it, but yeah, Life's a Beach was great. The Bad Boy Club.
Yeah, I found an old ad, and it was you, Pete Augustin, and what's the guy's name? I'm blanking on his name. Not Jason Parks. Chris Day. Yeah, that was it.
Oh yeah, I saw Chris Day last week. There was a book release here. Yeah,
I saw it,
and he was there. So good to see him, man. I hadn't seen that dude in years, but.
Amazing, yeah. He's one of the enigmas to me, like a real cutting-edge BMXer that you don't see much about.
Yeah, one of these guys who's just amazing, but you don't see him all the time, and then he comes back again. And no, he was just amazingly skillful, that guy. So good to see him.
And I saw a video recently of you, Craig, and Kevin Jones on a Skyway tour in '88.
The portable wall. So we made a portable wall and took it on tour all over America at bike shops. It was so funny, but it was basically just I think two 8x4 plywood, and then with a metal frame, and then there was just a wall standing up and just braces behind it, and we would hit the wall during the show. So that was pretty fun. But yeah, that was our street riding configuration during our bike shop shows, because it was hilarious. But yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, I enjoyed watching the footage. I'd seen it before, but I had a little refresher. And you both did a double wall ride, and the wall moves back.
Okay, yeah. No, it was fun. Every summer we would go on these tours. So the team manager would just line up all these bike shop shows, and we would just get in a van pulling a ramp and just drive all over America and just go from town to town, bike shop to bike shop, and just set up our ramps and our wall in parking lots and just do shows. So that's kind of the way that we spent our summers. Did the teams do that over in the UK?
Yeah. Sometimes we had tours come from the USA as well, the bigger ones.
Right.
It wasn't like the US though. It seemed like there was a circuit almost in the US where people did that tour circuit. No,
there were definitely certain bike shops that would invite all the teams because they saw the value of it. The show comes and they get 100 kids there watching and then going in the store and buying stuff, and so it was definitely profitable for the shops. But yeah, there was a time when, man, that was the thing to do in the summers, is either as a rider you'd go do shows, or as a kid you'd go and watch a show. So you'd get these carloads of kids coming in from like an hour away, and they would just bust out their bikes and watch the portable wall show.
And you also had a cover of freestyling. Can you remember that? It was on that like quite famous tree.
The tree, yeah. So that was awesome. That was in Balboa Park in San Diego, which is where
local.
Yeah, pretty local. Did the majority of my street riding, actually freestyle riding, and then street riding. Spent my Saturdays there, either there or Mission Beach. And when we started doing wall rides, we started doing them on everything we could, and then I saw that tree and it was perfect. And so I would do them on there, and then one day, I believe it was Wendy from BMX Action came down, and she just wanted to take pictures, so we took her to the tree, and got a good picture, got on the cover, and that was awesome. Definitely one of the highlight pictures from back then that I definitely still have.
Oh, it's one of your favorites, yeah.
Yeah, love that one.
I wanted to ask you about the sprocket pocket as well.
Yes.
Was that your design?
So I had a lot of input in it, but the design was my friend Todd Smedley. So in the video Ride On, there's the goofy dude who comes out once in a while, and he's riding the big cruiser bike, and it's going up and down, and like, see a penny, pick it up. Like, he's the goofy, he's the comedy relief. So that was Todd, and Todd was one of these guys who got into BMX and really didn't ride a whole lot, went and bought a bike, and just would be around me and some other guys when we go riding at Balboa Park, because he kind of lived there. And he learned some basic stuff. He learned like how to bunny hop and stuff. And one day we're down at the Balboa Park fountain. So there's a big fountain, and it's basically like about a foot, maybe a little higher than a foot, just a step. And so this is a thing that I first learned how to like roll back and do a 180 off. And what do you guys call them today? I just used to call it roll.
Half cab.
What is it?
Half cab. Half cab?
Half cabs.
Yeah, cab.
Half cabs. And I know that's from skateboarding, but I just did it. I didn't know what it was called in skateboard. So yeah, so I was the first guy to do that with my coaster brake. But so we would go up and down that fountain, and Todd, he was just not skilled at all and couldn't bunny hop very high. And so he went to go bunny hop onto the fountain, and he just hit his sprocket on the edge and broke his chain. And and so we had to walk home from Balboa Park to his house. It was probably like an hour walk or something. And the whole time he's just mad because he has to walk, and he broke his sprocket, and he just starts saying, man, there's got to be some way to protect the chain and make it not break. Like, this is so stupid and basic. Why would this happen? And so we just started talking about it, and we're like, well, maybe if you stick this thing over here or whatever. And so he just got out his paper and pencil and just started drawing stuff. And he came up with the original sprocket pocket. And the first one, it was like this big, heavy sandwich thing. You know, it was like, and so that was it. And it was awesome. And I got like a couple pictures in some early magazines doing that. I remember, man, I forget the magazine, but there was one where the caption was like, Jeff Tremaine said we had to put a picture of Eddie Roman grinding with his new sprocket pocket. It wasn't called that then, it was like chain ring or something. So it was a hit right away. Nobody could get it because we only had one, but everybody liked it. Eventually we took the idea to Odyssey, and they started mass producing them and selling them. And there was another guy involved, Rich Ewing, to where after Todd Smedley kind of didn't care about the idea anymore because it was just too big and too much money. And you know, Rich said, hey, I'll do something with this. And he was really the one to get it to Odyssey and you know, work the deal. And so it became an Odyssey thing. Actually, no, he made it just the Havoc sprocket pocket first. That was with Todd and them. And then after that, it ended up becoming an Odyssey thing. None of us ever really made a whole lot of money on it, just because, you know, when you're young and dumb, you don't know what contracts are, you know, but it's definitely cool to see over the years, like, you know, just different people making different versions of that. So that's always been a cool thing. But yeah, the sprocket pocket.
People still make it now.
Yeah.
Pretty much exactly the same. Yeah. Plastic on top of aluminium.
Yeah. Todd was really the brainchild of that. He's no longer with us. He died in a crazy off-road accident long time ago. And but yeah, so if anyone was going to make money off it now, it should be him, but he's no longer around. So at this point, I'm just glad it's still, you know, helping riders do what they want to do. It's pretty cool to see.
So you was already doing sprocket grinds without the sprocket pocket?
No, I don't think I was. I think I was doing some kind of pedal grind. You know, like I think in Ride On, I'm doing pedal grinds, and it's like on this painted wall. And so we were already doing stuff like that. But man, you know, I don't remember. I definitely wasn't trying to do sprocket stuff before the sprocket pocket, for the bash guard.
So how much were you to do with the Dirt Brothers project and the frames? Like, because when I was researching, I realised, Eddie Roman rode for Skyway. Mm-hmm. He rode for Dirt Brothers. Was you the connect there?
Man, I don't remember, but I kind of doubt it. So, you know, Vic Murphy, he's the brainchild behind the Dirt Bros, and he's always just been kind of a, you know, business-minded kind of guy, and, you know, making T-shirts and different stuff. And I don't remember. Maybe if anything, I might have given him a phone number to someone at Skyway, but he was really the guy that went there and made the deal and bought all the TA frames. That was totally him. I was, you know, Vic and I, we basically lived within the same neighborhood, like riding distance. And so Vic, Pete, Carlo Wik, Jim Sibley, Ronnie Farmer, I'm sure I'm missing someone, but I apologize. But all these different guys, you know, we would just all ride together. And at one point they had a house where all these guys lived in, called it the Dirt House. And so that's kind of where the Dirt Brothers came from. It was more of, Brad Blanchard too. It was more of a, just kind of a bunch of guys hanging out. And then eventually Vic came up with the bike idea, and it just took off. So yeah, I'm a Dirt Brother. Yeah.
And you did a couple of their early videos, right?
Yeah. Yep. In some of their early videos. I think when Dirt Brothers first started, I was still on Skyway. And so then eventually Skyway stopped sponsoring people. So I was off then. And then sometime after that, I was officially sponsored by the Dirt Brothers Industry Organization Corporation. Very, 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 very professional. So, yeah.
And you rode a Haro Bashguard bike as well, I noticed on some of the footage in the two-hit Meet the Streets.
Yep. Yeah. Haro gave me that. It was a Chrome Master, I believe, and they gave me that frame. You know, same with Haro. I've always been around them. Tony Murray when he was on the Haro team, I would go up to Haro with him and just kind of hang out. And so I got to know Bob and Ron Haro and just all the guys up there. And so, you know, when I asked them for a frame, they gave me one. So yeah, they were definitely just a great company. Again, San Diego based, so not too far from me. But yeah, I rode that frame for quite a while. That was definitely, was that the first Bashguard frame, or it was definitely one of them during that time?
Yeah, I would guess that was one of the first. Yeah. It was definitely early, and you had one early as well. Yeah,
it was fun stuff.
And you made Hicks in Action. Was it that one?
Hicks in Action. That was man. So I really had nothing to do with it, filming or editing. I might have filmed a few things. I don't think so, but there might be some. I'd have to watch them again. It's been so long. But yeah, that was really Vic and Pete Augustin as well. I believe those two guys were the guys working on those videos. And Hicks in Action. My favorite part in there is the beginning where Vic's uncle Kurt is singing his cowboy song about the Vic's in Action. That was funny. He's always a funny guy. But yeah, man, that was just the lifestyle of the Dirt Bros in San Diego.
Do you still see Vic Murphy?
I am going to see him not this weekend, but next weekend when I go to Ray's Bike Park in Ohio and hang out with him for the weekend. Yeah, and so I don't ride all the time. I don't ride regularly, but once in a while, I'll do stuff. And so that's going to be my next challenge: going there and riding all weekend and trying not to break my hip and trying to survive that thing. So that'll be fun. Yeah. So but I also saw Vic about a month ago. He lives out in Tennessee and like the not in Nashville, but within like an hour of Nashville. And I was out there just doing some work, and I happened to be passing through, and so I spent a day just hanging out with him. So it was really good. Still the same guy in so many different ways, and yeah, definitely great to see him.
And Vic Murphy, he still rides bikes, yeah?
He still rides bikes, yeah. He still does he still does shows, He's got like a Christian ministry where he goes around and does shows. I guess similar to school shows. Yeah. But his message is, instead of don't do drugs, it's talking about Jesus and the Bible. And so that's what he's doing. He's been doing it the whole time and still riding strong.
And I watched one of your video parts. I think it was Hicks in Action. Was you at Woodward? 360 in the box, maybe. And you do the bomb drop fakie, which was quite a new move for back then. Well, I guess it was yours, but.
Oh yeah, and I'm wearing a shirt that says "End Racism," I think.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I enjoyed that part actually.
Yeah. Oh, good. Thank you. The bomb drop, I used to call it the ninja drop. So where you hold your seat in one hand and your grip in the other and just jump off stuff. So yeah, no, I see people are still doing that today on ramps and different things. That's pretty cool. I love seeing that stuff. But yeah.
Yeah, I think most people still do call it the ninja drop. I think it's me who's in the minority with that one calling it a bomb drop.
You can call it a bomb drop. It's the bomb, so you can call it the bomb drop.
And from those videos, I noticed that you went on to make more videos a bit later on, like you made Lord Voelker, a couple of GT videos, and some other things for GT as well.
Yeah, so I made a video called Dead Sailor for GT, Lord Voelker, and then GT bicycles. So I ended up working at GT as full-time staff for their art department. It was myself and another guy named Don Hoffman, who his dad was the guy who owned the Pipeline Skate Park. And so Don Hoffman has a very long history of being like some of the first guys to ever videotape any kind of skate park contests. So like if you see any of the old pipeline skate park contests where it's Eddie Fiola and Dominguez and the guys, and some guys interviewing these guys, that's probably Don Hoffman. So he's been doing video forever. He ended up being GT's main video producer, director, maker. And so I got a job, basically working under him, working with him. And GT, they got into making a television show on Fox Sports Network, and it was called Crank. And so this was basically GT's attempt to, it really was one of the first action sports programs. So Crank would be mainly bicycles. It would be BMX and mountain biking, basically anything that GT made, racing. And then there would always be a segment with some kind of motorsport. So like motocross or drag racing. The owner of GT, Gary Turney, he always was into drag racing. He had a drag racer car. It was crazy. But so yeah, that was Crank. And so because of that, I was still always just working for GT, but the show ended up being on network TV in America and did pretty well. But yeah, so that's basically how I started making TV shows. And that was really great because we would go all over America, really, just to a spot and just go film it. So like Don was making the majority of the show. So like there's a mountain bike segment, there's a motorsport segment. And then my job was to come up with the freestyle or the dirt jumping, the BMX segment. So they would send me to there's a pool in Arizona where all these guys are riding all the time. So I would go there, film it, do a segment on it. And then so I would have like a 4 or 5 minute segment that I would shoot and edit, and I'd hand that to Don and he would drop it in the show. And so yeah, that was Crank. It was pretty cool. I'd love to see episodes. I wonder if I could find them on YouTube or something. But that was a really fun time.
And Lord Voelker was a really well-received video as well when it came out at the time. I remember when it came out, sort of came out of the blue, and a lot of people really enjoyed that one. Yeah. Yeah. What was the story there?
Yeah, that was fun. That was great. I've always liked Dave. He's always been like one of the legendary San Diego dudes. I've always looked up to him. And so I remember there was a time where I just kind of had nothing going on and just really wanted to make something. And Dave was one of those guys that was just always around. He was always really good. I think he had just done the Abubaca to the huge boulder where he got the cover on that. And I just thought, man, this dude needs a video. He's too much of a legend to not have one. And so just started hanging out with him and shooting and ended up coming up with that video. And, that's definitely a classic as well. I just saw Dave the other day at the book release. Didn't get a whole lot of time to talk to him, but it's always good to see him. I'm sure I'll run into him again at some point at one of these other BMX gatherings.
Yeah, I saw that. How was that night with the book launch?
Oh man, it was so cool. For me, so I don't go to a whole lot of BMX events anymore. I'm just so busy with my job and family and traveling and all this stuff. But every once in a while, if there's something close enough to me, I'll try to make it to it. And man, so for me, when I was in high school, I was not around my high school class much, so I don't really have any kind of connection with anyone I went to high school with. For me, my high school friends were all the BMX pros. And so this book signing, for me, it was like a high school reunion where I got to see all these guys that I hadn't seen in years and just catch up. And it was just awesome, man. It was so good. Really had a great time. And everyone was just, I don't know, everyone was just so happy to be there because like Bob Osborne was there. And he's like the man who started it all. And we got to listen to his just funny stories of back then. And at one time I'm like, man, is this dude going to be able to stand up the whole time? He was like, almost like, it was just funny, It's like all of us, we've all gotten older, and Bob was older than us all in the first place. And it was just fun to watch. And he also did a thing where they brought the entire publishing group, or all the people involved in publishing of Wizard Publications, BMX action, freestyle from back then. And they all came up on stage, and like, I had not ever seen or heard of any of these people before. I might have remembered their names, but it's just all these people. And it's like, man, these are the people who really started my childhood dream of BMX. So it was really cool in that way, just to see that. And, I got to see just so many old friends I hadn't seen in years, and just a lot of fun.
Judging from the projects you've done and the things that I've looked at, it seems that you've always looked at BMX stuff throughout your life. Is that right?
Yeah, I can't get away from it.
It seems like, from me, like from talking to you.
No, I mean, I've always, it's always been a part of my life. Like it's funny. Every once in a while I'll think about it. And back then, at age 13, I just got my first BMX bike, and ever since then, it was that's just what I did. It just became such a part of me. And even now that I don't ride regularly, I still have a BMX bike in my garage. I still wear T-shirts with BMX logos on them, and I still, come back to it. In a lot of ways, it's kind of like you watch these old documentaries of these soldiers and generals and just guys who were in the military when they were in their 20s, and even though they're not in battle anymore, they just never leave that. It's always a part of the way they think, and I kind of think of myself like that. It's like, at this reunion, it was almost like a bunch of old war veterans getting together, talking about the battles they used to have. And so even though most of us, aren't actively competing or doing it every day, it's still just such a part of our lives. And in so many ways, it shaped who we are. And it's never something I ever will forget, and never, it's always going to be a part of me, really shaped me.
So when was the last time you actually rode your BMX?
Man, now you're putting me on the spot. Probably about a week ago, where I was just riding it outside in front of my house. My son, he just went and got his tire fixed, because my son has a BMX bike too, and he rides it around. My son was actually in a pretty horrible accident where he almost lost his life back in 2018. Wow. He was in a really horrible automobile accident and went through a whole lot of rehab, and he's permanently blind in one eye now. He's got brain damage. It's not serious to where, I mean, it's serious, but he can still function. He's going to school. He's got a job. And if you were to talk to him, you wouldn't really think he has brain damage. You'd notice it if you knew him before, and he's a little different now. But so when he first came out of the hospital, he couldn't walk, much less ride a bike. And so to have him riding on a BMX bike again is pretty significant. So yeah, he was out there just working on his bike, and so I got on mine and just messed around for a little bit. But yeah, I'm kind of scared to see what happens when I go to Ray's bike park.
I'm interested in what will happen.
Yeah, not as much as I am. I want my goal is to not break my hip. That's my only goal for the whole weekend. So, but it'll be fun. It'll be good.
So I know what you do now, but tell the viewers who are going to watch this what you do now. Like, what's your daily routine now?
Yeah, so I'm still in the video business. For the past 16 years, I've produced a television show called Way of the Master. And so this is a Christian show. It airs primarily on Christian TV station. It plays around the world in all kinds of different countries. And basically the show is just teaching Christians how to either share their faith or answer the objections and questions from anyone who asks. So like, we do a lot of stuff like answering questions from an atheist or answering questions from a Satanist, and whatever it is, because obviously when it comes to religious stuff, people got a lot of questions, and they should. There's a lot of weird and crazy and jacked up stuff that happens in the name of religion, and so I don't deny that, and yet at the same time I understand that where there are lies, there is also truth, and so I believe that Jesus is the way and the truth and the life, and that the Bible is the Word of God, and so this TV show basically is all about that, right? And so, without turning this podcast into a church service, I will just say, if you ever want more information on that, you can go to the website where I work at, livingwaters.com. We got a YouTube channel. It's actually pretty fascinating, pretty interesting. We get into a lot of fun conversations. One of the main things I do is I produce shows where we go out into the street and I just ask people questions about God and spirituality. And as you can imagine, it gets pretty interesting. It's actually a lot of fun to do. So yeah, that's what I do. I produce a Christian TV show.
Well, I could ask you questions for the next 4 hours, but I know your time's tight. So if you're good with that, I'm good with that. And let me just ask you one more question.
Yes.
What was the average day in the life of an late 80s BMX pro?
Man. So for me, it was get up in the morning, go to school. On the way to school, you ride your bike, you hit curbs, you knock over trash cans, you barely get hit by cars. You just ride to school. On my way to school, it was kind of like more of a city kind of area. So it was very exciting. And then you go to school, you do school thing, and then you ride home from school, which is you're jumping off curbs. There's a famous picture of Vic Murphy doing a one-footed tabletop off a curb. I'm sure you've seen that. That curb was right in front of my old high school, Hoover High School in San Diego. So, that was just kind of what we did on the way home and on the way to school. So I would go home and then get home around, 2, 3 o'clock, go inside, eat something, come back out, go to the basketball court right by my house, or the local riding spot. Maybe it's a ramp in a friend's backyard. Maybe it's the Home Avenue ditch, which I lived right up the street from. I'm pretty sure I was actually the first guy, or within a group of guys that ever rode there regularly. They actually, our BMX I think they're doing a story on the Home Avenue ditch right now. They asked me for a bunch of old stuff. That was fun. But so just go riding at a local spot for, 2 or 3 hours, come home, eat dinner, and then go back outside and ride again. So it was just a ton of riding. That's when I was living at home. And then after being sponsored and being kind of out on my own, then it was basically the same thing, but there were also demos and contests thrown in there as well. So just a lot of riding, man, just a lot of riding with friends and not caring about any kind of problems in the world and just living the dream. Wish I could go back there now.
Amazing. Oh yeah, it looked unreal from the outside looking in. Well,
super fun.
Well, thanks a lot for spending some time with us, and thanks for coming on. And I can't believe no one's asked you to do one of these before. But seriously, thanks very much, man. Thanks for listening. We've got a Patreon page, so if you could show us any support, we'd be most grateful. The link's below. A lot of work goes into these shows, so anything you could do would be much appreciated. Thank you.